I now welcome Reverend Paul Johnson, who's going to speak with us on Christmas, Great Expectations.
Over the years in each community where I've served as settled minister, I've been part of ecumenical clergy groups, and we get together to discuss community issues of common concern. We've had book discussions on issues of pastoral counseling. We've discussed such common congregational issues as fundraising and administration. And when I was in Princeton, boy, we had some heavy-duty lectures from the Institute of Advanced Studies, even as abstruse as quantum physics. I have a shorthand in my mind for what that means, but it was quite an experience. But the attempt in all these groups was to avoid controversy. Just think of all the things we could argue about. Predestination, the real presence in the Eucharist, the second coming, authority of Scripture, the virgin birth of Jesus. We could really get in some heated discussions if we allowed ourselves, and so we stayed away in all these groups from tough issues, except one time. In my first congregation in southern Minnesota, we got into an argument about Advent and Christmas. That was pretty heated. I think one minister brought up the fact that the community was really going astray by rushing the holiday. I think he said, boy, as soon as Halloween is over, we have the decorations for Christmas. And this is wrong. We should stand against this. And then even some churches, they put up Christmas trees and decorations before Christmas Eve. This is wrong. This is wrong. Because the time before Christmas is a time of reflection and waiting and not rushing the season. The only thing you should have in your church is an Advent wreath. And each Sunday before, 4 Sundays before Christmas, you light one Advent candle, showing that the light is getting greater and greater towards the celebration of Christmas, but you don't want to rush the holiday. It's a time of waiting to celebrate the celebration of coming Jesus to earth and what that means to us personally, and what is waiting within ourselves to be born in the holiday season. And it was very strongly held by several of the ministers that this was what was to be done and should be done. And other ministers seem to think, well, anything after Thanksgiving is fair game. But this was a new issue to me. I didn't grow up in a heavily liturgical church which celebrated Advent in this way. And I began to think more and more over the years about expectation as a part of Christmas, rather than only a celebration. You know, their whole point was the celebration doesn't start till Christmas Eve at midnight service, and then it goes on for 12 days. That's when you let loose, through 12th night. You otherwise it's a time of spiritual expectation. As I have thought about this more, I realized that this has been, aspect of expectation has been true in ancient times, where people believed that their rituals brought the sun back, coaxed the sun back. This past week, I read an interesting account of Carl Gustav Jung, the great psychologist, Jungian analyst, who visited this country in the 1920s. I didn't realize that he had visited here, but he wanted to visit with the Pueblo Indians, and so he did that, and he met one of their leaders of the Pueblo people, and who said to him, because of our rituals, the Father-Son returns every year. We keep the solar system going. And if we didn't, everything would come to a screeching halt. So this expectation that our rituals will keep this going. And of course, the Yule log, the rolling of wheels of fire down the mountainsides, the lighting of bonfires and other fire rituals, of course, were necessary to sustain life. And of course, it was a great expectation that the Jewish Maccabees had as they launched their guerrilla warfare against the occupying Syrians in order to save their national religion from being destroyed. And the Hanukkah lights celebrate that expectation every year. And of course, the great expectation of the Christian tradition was the awaiting of a Messiah who would bring a new heaven and new earth. It didn't quite work the first time around with Jesus, but he's coming back again. And every Christmas in my evangelical church growing up, we were told there was the first Advent, and the second Advent is coming, and you better get ready, because Jesus is coming back again. The great expectation has been so important. And of course, as I was growing up, Christmas was that great expectation. Maybe it was in your life as well. Not everyone's life, but it sure was with me. My mother was just devoted to Christmas and decorating in the house before Christmas Eve. She would have an Advent calendar. And each day, one of the 6 kids would open up the Advent calendar for that day. Isn't it amazing how excited we were about the expectancy of the next day to take that little slip of paper and turn it over to see what the next day was going to be? And alas, one morning we saw that someone had jumped the gun and, peeled it off before they should have. Who did it? No one owned up to it, but and then my mother would begin her baking before Christmas of crullers and rosettes and lefse and fatiman, the Norwegian and Swedish delicacies. And then she would hide them so we couldn't get them. And we would look all over the house. Talk about expectancy, even up into the attic. I think we found some in the attic one year. But talk about expectancy. And then Grandma would come, and she would make her wonderful cinnamon rolls and bake bread. And on Christmas Eve, Uncle Lloyd and Aunt Eileen and cousins Jimmy and Rosemary would come, which we look forward to every year. And then, of course, there were all the gifts. All the gifts. And we would look at the Montgomery Ward's and Sears catalog to choose what gifts we wanted from Santa, the big gifts, and then some not so big gifts from Mom and Dad. And we would let these be known. I remember one year my great expectation was a set of tools because I wanted to build a tree house. I was 10 years old, I think. I wasn't too realistic. But I had shown my mom, what to get, and waited for Christmas to come. And I saw that package, under the tree, and would shake it, and, it sounds pretty good. And open it up at Christmas, and it was a kid's set of tools. Small, miniature tools. I can't build a treehouse with this. And I complained like everything to my mother, and she was kind of chagrined. Apparently I didn't make myself real clear as to what size I wanted. And I remember my Aunt Eileen took me into the pantry, and she said, Paul, you're really disappointing your mother. She did the best she could from her understanding. I think you should stop complaining. I just thank her for what she got. And that was a real lesson to me. In the Christmas story, how Ralphie longs for that BB gun, BB rifle, Red Ryder, imagining what it's going to be like. I was imagining what that treehouse was going to be like. And it didn't come to pass. It didn't come to pass. That mound of gifts coming from all the relatives and so forth was so exciting, and our expectations were so high. And of course, we experienced that all again through our children, and it was great. I remember one year our son David said, "Do you and Mom really believe in Santa Claus? What are you going to say?" And I said, "Mom and I believe in the spirit of Santa Claus." I thought that was pretty good. And he said, "I guess it would have to be a spirit to come down our chimney." And I thought that was so cute. I've told him that many times. I think he's getting a little tired of hearing that from me. And then one year, I think it was the year we got him a bicycle, and he was so excited on Christmas morning. And he said, "Now I really believe in Santa Claus. You two wouldn't buy me something this nice." Ouch, ouch, yeah. One year when our daughter was 7 years old, she had cut out all of her wishes from a holiday catalog and pasted them on a sheet and presented them to me. And I said, "Well, Kristen, I think maybe you should narrow your expectations a little bit here and give me at least a priority as to which ones you want." But that aspect of expectation has stayed with me. And I'm so pleased that there have been so many sayings and words about childhood and Christmas and this holiday season, because it stirs up within me that aspect of the child within that has expectations about what's coming. I'm really looking forward to our Christmas Eve service, to our New Year's Day together here. And every year I look through forward with expectation to the at our Plus 55 community we live in. They do wonderful decorations. A little disappointing this year because out in the courtyard of our building, there's no nativity scene this year. I keep looking for Jesus, and he's not there. Santa is there. A new Santa who magically pops up every day. I don't know how that is, but we were walking past Santa, and all of a sudden, psst, and he starts blowing up, and a big Santa, but no Jesus. But it's nice to see Santa that way. But and look forward to visiting with our children and their significant others. We're going to go Christmas Day to Charleston and spend a week with them all together, which we're looking forward to. And the expectation of the holiday music on Sirius Radio and Amazon Music, which I listen to every day. And I sometimes do think about what is waiting to be born within me this coming year. Do you ever think about that? What is waiting within me to be born this coming year? What expectations do I have as we've completed one trip around the sun and begin another one? Now, there are problems, I suppose, with expectations. There are disappointments. I'm sure our daughter, Kristen, was disappointed that she didn't get everything she wanted for Christmas. I didn't get my proper carpentry set. And I was disappointed. But I wouldn't want to give up that expectation of that treehouse, even though it was never built. It was really enriching and exciting to have. But what about the dream of the angel's message, peace on earth and goodwill to all, as we face all the warfare across the world with Ukraine and Israel and Gaza and many other places? is our expectations to be dashed continually. And I remember what my seminary professor at Meadville Lombard University of Chicago said, James Luther Adams, the smiling prophet, we call him. He said, the resources that are available for the achievement of meaningful change justify an attitude of ultimate optimism. Prophets recognize this tragic nature of the human condition, but continue to live with dynamic hope. And you know, I have a hope within me that ultimately, Israel and the Palestinians can find a way to live together. They came so close with the Oslo Accords for a two-state solution that will give this as a possibility. I have hopes that ultimately, maybe this sounds like an unrealistic expectation, but that politically in this country, we're going to stop supporting Israel if it doesn't abide by international law to stop settling areas of the West Bank and to stop the settlers from terrorizing Palestinians. I have that expectation that that's a possibility, and we can move forward. But all in all, I just love what was written many years ago by our ministerial colleague, Sarah Moores Campbell, when it comes to this season and the spirit of the child within us. She says, give us the spirit of the child who lives within, the child who trusts, the child who imagines, the child who sings, the child who receives without reservation, the child who gives without judgment. Give us a child's eyes that we may receive the beauty and freshness of this day, like a sunrise. Give us a child's ears that we may hear the music of mythical times. Give us the child's heart that we may be filled with wonder and delight. Give us a child's faith that we may be cured of our cynicism. And give us the spirit of the child who is not afraid to need, who is not afraid to love, who can be filled with expectancy because Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming. Amen.